welcome back to It's K Yvonne. Today I have a special guest with me. I have Steve. He is part of the LSAT Unplugged, and he's here to give us tips about the LSAT, the LSAT Flex, and just anything else you guys are really just curious and want to know things about the LSAT. So, Steve, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's great to connect with you. Lots of changes in the LSAT law school admissions world, like we were chatting a little bit before. So much has changed. The LSAT is online now. It's a flex, and I'm happy to walk through all of that with you since I know a lot of your viewers are in the process of applying to law school. So let's talk through it.
And that's perfect because the last time I took the LSAT, to be honest, was 2015. It's 2020 now. We're in a pandemic. Things are looking completely different. We, like you said, it's online now. And just how does that work? How does that look like? How's that? Like the whole process behind the LSAT now?
Yeah, so lots of changes. Like you said, you took it back in 2015. Back then it was paper and pencil only with that thin newsprint, number 2 pencils, going somewhere in person in a group. Obviously, all of that seems crazy now. So last year in 2019, they put the LSAT on a tablet. So you still had to go somewhere, but they got rid of the newsprint booklets. They gave people tablets and people were taking it on a tablet in person. Now, 2020, because of the pandemic, they put it online. So you're doing it at home online, and they're using a company called ProctorU to watch you with a webcam and a microphone. So that's fun.
Wow. Okay. So do you know who exactly is watching it? Is it like you know how me and you are online right now with our computers? Is it someone like sitting virtually watching the students take the test? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so there is this company, ProctorU. They hire tons of people to watch people take exams for accountability, to support cheating, all of that. So they're watching you with a webcam. They're recording everything in the case of the need to review it later. But they can see you. You can't see them. So it's a little bit weird, something to get over. Maybe do some practice tests that way if necessary. But yeah, that is a change.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's wow. That's very interesting. Okay, so then I guess my next question is, these are for more so for people who are new to the LSAT, don't even know what the LSAT is. What exactly is the LSAT?
Yeah, so the LSAT is the law school admission test. It's the entrance exam. It's not pass-fail, though. They rate you on a scale of 120 to 180, and the questions involve critical reasoning, deductive reasoning. They're said to be similar to what you're doing in law school itself. So it's considered an aptitude test where there's not really memorization, nothing to truly learn on that side of things, but much more reasoning abilities in the way in which you go about thinking about things. So there's 3 sections: logic games, logical reasoning, reading comprehension, and the Flex has 1 section of each. And we can dig more into specifics, but that's pretty much the idea.
Okay. Like I said earlier, like I took it in 2015. Back then, the LSAT was only, I believe, proctored 2 times out of the year, 2 or 3 times out of the year. So how often can students take the LSAT?
Yeah, so for a long time, it was given 4 times a year, and 3 of those exams were released or disclosed. One of them was kept in the bank for potential future reuse. Then a year or 2 ago, they upped it significantly to be nearly every month. They wanted to be more test taker friendly. They wanted to compete better with the GRE, which is offered practically every day. So they upped it to nearly every month. With the Flex, they're doing the same thing. So the LSAT was going to be in March and April and June and July. Because of the pandemic, they had to cancel a couple of those and make them Flex exams online, but it's still nearly every month. And as time rolls on, they keep canceling in-person LSATs and replacing them with online Flex exams because the pandemic just keeps continuing. So folks are going to be able to take it almost any time, nearly once a month.
Okay, and you mentioned the LSAT Flex. To be honest, I have no idea what that is. I don't know if all my viewers know what that is. Can you explain what is the LSAT Flex?
Yeah, so the Flex is an online at-home version of the LSAT that they're administering because they can't give it in person due to the pandemic. So they've adjusted it to be online, both with the format. There's, like I said, there's the proctor watching you. It's also only 3 sections, not 5, because of bathroom breaks. So they don't want to deal with that from a security perspective, even though I don't think it's a huge issue. But they're giving it at home 3 sections, 1 games, 1 reasoning, 1 reading comp. So they've cut one of the scored logical reasoning sections. And you're done in 2 hours.
Oh, it's only 2 hours.
Yeah, because 3 sections, 35 minutes each.
Oh, wow, you're right. Wow, that's crazy. And I did have some questions from a viewer, specifically who asked, how many times do you recommend a student taking the LSAT? Is there like a set number where you need to stop taking the LSAT to increase your score, or does it matter at all? Can you take it unlimited times? Would that look bad to admissions office? What would you say to that viewer?
I would say most people should probably take it more than once, just because law schools don't average multiple scores, with very few exceptions. They only take the highest. So if you could take it again a month later and just through luck alone do a few points better, that's a few points better on your record. So why not? There is an upper limit though. There are some formal limits from LSAC, like only 3 times in one testing cycle, meaning 1 year from June to May of the following year, 5 times in 5 years, 7 times for life, and so on. So there are some limits that are pretty broad. Like it'd be hard to run into one of those, although it's possible. Law schools don't want to see you taking it 6, 7 times, because that indicates that maybe you're not exercising the best judgment as to when you're ready for it. But I'd say 2, 3, 4 times is probably fine.
Okay. And another question that a viewer indicated to me was, let's say, with the LSAT, you are looking to reach a certain goal score. Most people want to apply, make a score that's in a higher range for LSAT scores. So what can you say to viewers who don't seem to reach that high score? Do you think they can still apply to law school? Or would you recommend them taking a tutor or taking a class? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so if you're not reaching your goal score, you have a couple of choices. One is to just apply with what you got, or to retake for another go at it. And so if you've got the time to study for a retake and to figure out what you could do differently, then I would suggest retaking, because if you can get a higher score, that means getting into better law schools, getting more scholarship money, or both. On the other hand, if it just isn't in the cards for you to put in the effort or investment into a retake, then you got to decide, is what you have good enough? So what's your LSAT score? What's your GPA? Where do they make you a competitive candidate? And then the schools that you are competitive at, what would it be like to go there? So what would their employment outcomes be? What are their bar passage rates? Those are all things to consider. You want to make sure that the school is not at risk of closing, and you want to make sure it's not too low ranked, because then it might not open a lot of employment doors. So I would tread carefully around that. Usually it could be worthwhile to retake it, even if it means delaying applying by an entire year. If you get into a better school and get the scholarship money, it's going to be the easiest money you'll ever make in a way.
Yes, it definitely will. And I just wanted to add to your point, like, I think it's very imperative that students kind of spread out their options when they're applying to law school. For instance, yes, everybody wants to go to the top 14 schools, but, actually, like, applying to law school is not as easy as it looks, right? Not everyone gets into their dream school. So I always recommend that when you're applying to law school, apply to different tiers. As in, like, you have your top tiers, which is the top 14. You have your lower tiers. You have your mid-ranked schools, and that gives you a wide variety of options. So, you don't have all your eggs in one basket if you don't get into, the top law schools.
That's right. Yes, you got your reach schools, your target schools, your safety schools. Yeah, a couple of each is reasonable to go for. And then if you want to apply to more reach schools and you wouldn't be happy with the safety, then you just got to apply to more. And so definitely contact those schools and see about getting application fee waivers, because applying to all these schools at over $100 a pop, that does add up pretty quickly. So definitely ask them for those fee waivers for the applications, and they're often quite liberal with them.
Right. And honestly, I don't have any other questions for you, Steve, unless you have questions for me. I'm willing to answer anything.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned before we started talking here is the idea that some of your friends outperformed their numbers. And so meaning that like their LSAT or GPA may not have been at or above the median, but they still got accepted to the particular school. So I'm wondering if there was something about their applications or their backgrounds, their resume, their personal statement that you think made them stand out.
Right. Okay. So, what an interesting question. Okay. So everyone has a story, right? Because we're all humans. We have different experiences. We come from different places. So no human is the same. We might have a lot of similarities, but we all have differences. So I think when it comes to applying to law schools, you really have to have a deep dive and figure out like what is special about the school. Like what is leading you to the school? For instance, I went to Northwestern. Their main focus is one, having a work experience as a background. Like they pride themselves on having a class that is a little older because you have that knowledge that we can all feed on the in the classroom environment. And they really pride themselves on diversity. So what was important to them is showing in their application, hey, I had work experience here and I gained this knowledge from that work experience. Or like, hi, I'm diverse because this. Because again, this is speaking from Northwestern's perspective, they really wanted to see who the applicant was holistically. You were not just your LSAT score. You are a person, you had experiences. What can you bring to the table? You know, so I think that is why I say, yes, your LSAT score is important, but realistically, not everyone scores high on the LSAT, especially minorities. I did my research, especially when I was taking the LSAT and studying minorities, specifically African Americans and Hispanics. They were making a 142. This is in 2015. I don't know if this is still true now, but in 2015, they were making a 142 average score on the LSAT. So what does that mean? That means you need to make up for that score, which is, like I said, your resume needs to show your experiences. What have you done in that workspace? You need to make sure that your GPA will try to raise your GPA, or even supply them with supplemental information on like, why is your LSAT score low? Like tell them what's going on. Are you working 3 jobs? Are you working, are you trying to take care for your family? Also, while trying to study for the LSAT, because they care about those people. They realize the strength and perseverance that those types of people have. And they're like, hey, this person will be a great lawyer because you have to balance these things anyways on the workforce. So I think it's just really indicating to the admissions office your passion and really why you want to be an attorney. I think, again, if you're picking the right school that has that holistic approach, and again, specifically, I would recommend schools that allow you to have interviews, then tell them, you know, why your LSAT score is low. If you have a history of making low standardized test scores, you can bring out your old test scores, whether it's the ACT, SAT, and tell them that, hey, like, look, I wasn't doing that well on these tests, but look at my GPA in college, look at my GPA in high school, look at the things I've done on my work sphere, and they will literally consider that and that shows them that you are a strong candidate. So I think that's what separated my friends apart from the people who are making the high scores. And they did good. Let me reiterate that they actually came out of school with top jobs. They did great in law school. They made great scores. They were in the top of their class. So, like I said, don't let your LSAT define you because, you know, it's not all about the score.
Those are some excellent points. I appreciate your raising them. And I agree that if someone has outperformed what their standardized test scores would indicate in undergrad, as you said, if their SAT or ACT scores were relatively lower, but their undergrad GPA ended up being higher, they can say, my test scores do not predict my performance. Please note that and put that in an addendum. And I also want to call out what you said about the different parts of the application, really making those shine. You know, your numbers are going to be whatever they're going to be. You want to give it your all there. But at a certain point, once you're ready to move on from that, you can still make your essays as solid as possible and highlight different things about your background and your experience to let admissions get to see another side of you. And some schools will focus more on the numbers. Some will be more holistic. They all claim to be holistic. Right. In reality, I'm not sure how much they always are, but certainly something like an interview, which is quite rare in law school admissions overall, but I know Northwestern does it. Schools that offer the interviews, they're giving you another chance to show yourself. And so if you're not as much of a test scores person, but you can do well in person or at least on video, then definitely give that a shot too.
Right, definitely. That's why I said it's important to do your research beforehand. Don't don't apply to a law school because it's highly ranked. Like, you can go to a high-ranked law school and it has nothing, it doesn't give you what you're interested in. It doesn't give you that type of law, or have the classes that have that practice of law that you want to go into. You really need to have a holistic approach of like, why do you want to go to this law school? It's not always about the ranking. Sometimes a lower ranked school, I know, which sounds bizarre, like, whoa, but like sometimes a lower ranked school has something better for you than a higher ranked school. So
exactly. And more scholarship money.
Yeah,
definitely worth considering.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for the great collaboration and discussion. Do you want to share a bit about your channel and what you're up to so folks watching on my end can follow you for more?
All right. So again, hello everyone. My name is Kamisha and my YouTube channel is It's KU Vaughn. I'm a recent law grad from Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. And basically, I just wanted to create a channel that would help law school students in their whole law school journey, answer questions about how to apply to law school, how to study while you're in law school, just questions that I had in general that I didn't have answers for. I just wanted to give advice and tips for aspiring attorneys. And also, it's a combination of a lifestyle channel. So I'm also showing like, hey, you know, even though they say lawyers don't have a life or law students don't have a life, it's not entirely true. Like, I also travel and I also love to go to restaurants because I'm a foodie and review that. So it's just basically a law grad living her best life and showing you like, hey, it's possible to have a legal career while maintaining social interactions and having fun.
Excellent. Well, that's definitely a model to aspire to. So I'll encourage folks to check you out. And then for folks watching on your end, I'll share a little bit about what I'm up to. So again, I'm Steve Schwartz. I run the LSAT blog. I also host the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel and podcast. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, so it's been a very long journey. I run the LSAT blog. I've got the podcast, the YouTube channel, the Facebook group, the Instagram. I'm putting out tons of information all the time. We discussed a little bit about the LSAT Flex, and I've got plenty of more resources and updates on that I'm sharing through all those various mediums. So please follow me and check me out there for more. And I'll share some links to include below this video too, so folks can click on over.
Perfect. And thank you so much for joining me. This collaboration video was very beneficial to my viewers, and I'm sure that it's going to be beneficial to your viewers as well. I'm happy to collab anytime. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's do it again sometime. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.